in one terrifying moment, everything we know about the galaxy changes forever. Grogu, the child we've watched grow under Din Djarin's protection, is now trapped in an Imperial facility. His innocent coups have been replaced by the hum of scientific equipment. His cradle? A laboratory cage. But here's what will shock you. This single capture provides the Empire with intelligence so devastating that it transforms the balance of power across the entire Outer Rim and fundamentally alters the future of Force user resistance. What happens next will show you how one captured child becomes the key to the Empire's most successful regional campaign against the Jedi, creating ripple effects that will reshape the very nature of galactic civilization itself. Let's rewind to that crucial moment on Tython. In our timeline, Luke Skywalker arrived just in time to save Grogu from Moff Gideon's grasp. But what if those crucial minutes played out differently? What if the Dark Troopers were faster, more efficient? What if Din Djarin's heroic sacrifice simply wasn't enough to buy the time needed? In this alternate reality, Grogu is sedated and transported to a classified Imperial intelligence facility on Coruscant, a secure installation hidden beneath the former Jedi temple. Built into the ruins of meditation chambers where Grogu once played, the sterile white walls create a deliberate psychological contrast to the peaceful environment he remembers. Dr. Pershing begins intensive work alongside Imperial intelligence specialists, using experimental mild sedatives to determine their effects on Grogu's unique physiology. After weeks of trial and error, they discover that gentle psychological encouragement combined with simple rewards yields better cooperation than chemical intervention. The breakthrough comes when they realize that Grogu's species responds to emotional comfort rather than manipulation. The early sessions reveal the depth of trauma Grogu has experienced since Order 66. His responses mix current fears with childhood memories in ways that require careful interpretation. The child's mind has compartmentalized his experiences, protecting core memories while remaining accessible to those who approach him with kindness. Grogu's recognition of kindness after months of trauma makes him initially responsive to Dr. Pershing's approach. Through careful conversations conducted while Grogu plays with toys and receives favorite foods, they gradually extract memories of temple life. His childlike perspective preserved information about how different Jedi Masters behaved, capturing personal habits that adult observers would have dismissed as irrelevant. The intelligence that emerges proves both valuable and limited. Grogu remembers Master Windu's distinctive walking pattern and preference for direct confrontation. He recalls Master Yoda's habit of using his walking stick to tap specific rhythms when thinking and how different rhythms corresponded to different problems. Anakin Skywalker left strong impressions due to his interaction with younglings, and Grogu's memories include observations of Anakin's facial expressions when angry or frustrated. Most significantly, Grogu's memories reveal informal social dynamics within the Jedi Temple. He remembers which masters worked well together, which ones had philosophical disagreements, and how different personalities influenced each other during stress. This social intelligence proves as valuable as tactical information, providing Imperial analysts with insights into how surviving Jedi might respond to pressure or seek assistance. Over 8 months, Imperial intelligence compiles useful but limited behavioral intelligence about several Jedi Masters. More importantly, Grogu provides descriptions of 6 Force-sensitive children from his temple years, a Twi'lek girl with telekinetic abilities, a human boy with precognitive flashes, and 4 others whose Force sensitivity showed distinct patterns. However, Dr. Pershing documents significant limitations. As Grogu understands that his memories are being used to hurt people he cared about, his cooperation decreases dramatically. The child experiences moral awareness episodes, moments when he comprehends the consequences and becomes distressed. Many recollections prove fragmentary or confused, requiring verification efforts that often yield inconclusive results. Recognizing the intelligence's potential value despite limitations, Moff Gideon authorizes Operation Insight, a classified initiative focused on Outer Rim territories where Imperial intelligence believes most surviving Jedi hide. The strategic decision reflects practical considerations and resource constraints. The region's sparse Imperial presence makes it ideal for fugitives, while successful operations would demonstrate Imperial reach without massive resource commitments. The project operates under strict compartmentalization, with sector-specific analysis teams receiving behavioral summaries, along with explicit warnings about information reliability. Imperial intelligence establishes 3 regional coordination centers, each responsible for operations within designated sectors, while maintaining minimal communication to preserve security. Working with behavioral specialists, the team develops tactical profiles for known Jedi survivors in Outer Rim sectors. The analysis proves complex, as Grogu's childhood observations must be translated into actionable intelligence through interpretation and cross-referencing with existing databases. The behavioral profiles focus on fighting tendencies, tactical preferences, and psychological pressure points that can be exploited. However, analysts acknowledge significant uncertainty and recommend treating intelligence as suggestions rather than certainties. Each profile includes confidence ratings based on source quality, with most receiving moderate ratings, requiring additional reconnaissance. The intelligence proves moderately valuable in early operations across 3 Outer Rim sectors. Grogu's observations help Imperial forces anticipate some responses and identify approaches for psychological pressure. However, success rates improve by only 20 to 30%, and many missions fail when Jedi adapt beyond predicted patterns. The project's most significant breakthrough comes from Grogu's identification of Force-sensitive children from his temple years. Imperial intelligence cross-references his descriptions with refugee databases and records across targeted systems. Of the 6 children Grogu remembers, they successfully locate 3 within 18 months. The Twi'lek girl, now in her 20s, is discovered working as a moisture farmer on Ryloth, under an assumed identity. Her capture yields limited intelligence about 2 other survivors, but reveals no knowledge of broader networks. The human boy is tracked to Tatooine, providing information about hidden artifacts, but no current intelligence about other communities. Each captured individual undergoes similar interrogation techniques, but provides only fragmentary information. Imperial analysts discover that surviving Jedi have implemented sophisticated compartmentalization strategies, ensuring individual captures cannot compromise entire networks. The intelligence cascade proves weaker than hoped, with most captures yielding little actionable information. The project expands slowly as Imperial intelligence learns to work within constraints of partial information. Operations require significant additional reconnaissance and planning to compensate for limitations, constraining the number of simultaneous missions that can benefit from Grogu's intelligence. 3 years after Grogu's capture, Operation Insight has provided tactical advantages in Imperial anti-Jedi operations across targeted Outer Rim territories, enabling more focused hunting strategies. The intelligence helps Imperial forces achieve moderate but consistent success against some targets, though Jedi survivors continue adapting their methods to counter Imperial approaches. Cal Kestis, operating primarily in targeted territories, faces increased pressure from Imperial forces, who understand aspects of Master Jaro Tupple's training methods. Imperial specialists have developed approaches based on Grogu's memories of how Jaro interacted with younglings, particularly his emphasis on protecting innocent life above personal safety. Imperial forces create scenarios involving endangered civilians that force Cal to choose between operational security and humanitarian response. Knowing his training compels him to prioritize innocent lives even when logic suggests traps. These psychological operations prove effective because they exploit Cal's emotional connections to his former master's teachings. Several Imperial operations succeed in forcing Cal to reveal his location or exhaust resources, and 2 major safe houses are compromised through intelligence-guided operations. However, Cal's survival instincts allow him to adapt faster than Imperial intelligence can update behavioral models. He begins deliberately acting contrary to training, sacrificing efficiency for unpredictability. Ahsoka Tano, when operating within targeted sectors, encounters Imperial forces who attempt to exploit intelligence about her relationship with Anakin Skywalker and her unconventional background as a former Padawan who left the Jedi Order. Imperial specialists have identified her tendency to prioritize civilian protection and emotional responses to scenarios reminiscent of Clone Wars experiences. Some operations successfully create pressure scenarios triggering her protective instincts, using staged civilian emergencies, forcing choices between security and humanitarian response. However, her extensive experience allows her to recognize and counter most manipulation attempts through careful analysis of scenarios designed to provoke responses. Imperial forces achieve tactical successes by exploiting her tendency to prioritize civilian safety. But victories prove temporary as Ahsoka develops counter-strategies, maintaining her principles while avoiding traps. Luke Skywalker presents unique challenges for analysts. His minimal formal training means he doesn't follow traditional Jedi patterns, making behavioral predictions based on classical methodology largely ineffective. Imperial forces attempt to use intelligence about traditional recruitment methods to predict his approach, achieving partial success in identifying areas where Luke might search for Force-sensitive individuals, but his unconventional methods make specific predictions impossible. The regional campaign achieves moderate but consistent success over 3 years. Within the 3 targeted sectors, Imperial forces eliminate roughly 20 Jedi survivors through operations benefiting from Grogu's intelligence. However, this represents only incremental improvement over previous efforts, and organized resistance continues despite sustained pressure. 4 years after Operation Insight began, the project faces significant constraints, limiting continued effectiveness. Grogu's cooperation has diminished to near zero, as his psychological development accelerated under stress, giving him adult-level comprehension of moral implications while retaining emotional vulnerability. Dr. Pershing's documentation reveals the scope of Grogu's psychological deterioration. The child experiences severe nightmares featuring temple friends and mentors, often waking in distress requiring medical intervention. His eating patterns became erratic, and he frequently refuses activities that previously provided comfort, suggesting deep depression concerning medical staff regardless of their Imperial loyalty. The Imperial Security Bureau conducts a comprehensive review of Dr. Pershing's performance and loyalty, focusing on his increasingly detailed recommendations for reduced interrogation and improved psychological care. His advocacy for Grogu's welfare clashes with Imperial intelligence demands and raises questions about his commitment to Imperial objectives over ethical considerations. The review reveals that Dr. Pershing has been filing unofficial reports documenting the psychological cost of the interrogation program, including assessments that could be interpreted as criticism of Imperial methods. While not overtly treasonous, his documentation suggests sympathy for the subject that the ISB considers incompatible with continued access to classified operations. The ISB removes Dr. Pershing from the project and reassigns him to routine medical duties at a remote facility, effectively ending his career in high-level intelligence operations. He is replaced with Dr. Skalder, a specialist in hostile interrogation techniques who emphasizes efficiency over subject welfare, viewing Grogu as a strategic resource to be exploited rather than a patient requiring care. However, more aggressive methods prove counterproductive with Grogu, yielding less useful information while causing severe psychological damage concerning even veteran Imperial personnel. Dr. Skalder's techniques, effective with adult prisoners possessing specific information, prove inappropriate for a traumatized child whose cooperation depends on emotional trust rather than fear. The systematic pressure on targeted Jedi communities has eliminated some survivors, but forced adaptive improvements in security methods among remaining resistance. Surviving Jedi develop counterintelligence techniques that limit the effectiveness of behavioral predictions, creating ongoing strategic competition rather than decisive Imperial advantage. Regional commands begin questioning the cost-effectiveness of continued operations, as resource investments yield diminishing returns compared to conventional anti-rebel activities. Moff Gideon faces pressure from Imperial High Command to demonstrate continued strategic value from the expensive and politically sensitive project. Imperial intelligence begins developing alternative approaches that don't depend entirely on intelligence extracted from a single traumatized child, acknowledging practical limitations while maintaining the project for bureaucratic prestige rather than strategic necessity. 6 years after Grogu's capture, the Empire has achieved significant but geographically limited success in anti-Jedi operations. Within the 3 targeted Outer Rim sectors, Imperial forces have eliminated between 20 and 25 confirmed Jedi survivors and significantly disrupted Force user support networks, representing the most successful regional anti-Jedi campaign in Imperial history and proving the potential of systematic psychological warfare when properly resourced and coordinated. However, success remains confined to the area where Grogu's intelligence could be effectively applied. Jedi resistance continues throughout other Imperial territories, and even within targeted sectors, several high-value survivors remain active despite sustained pressure. The regional elimination of Force user communities creates unexpected governance challenges as traditional conflict mediation mechanisms disappear from local structures. Imperial administrators discover that Force users, even those hidden from authorities, often served crucial roles in community dispute resolution and crisis management that conventional bureaucracy struggles to replace. Worlds where Force-sensitive individuals provided guidance for agricultural planning and hazard detection begin experiencing decreased productivity and increased accident rates, straining Imperial resources. Communities that maintain stability through informal Force user mediation experience increased crime rates and instability, requiring enhanced Imperial security presence. Grogu's condition has deteriorated severely under Dr. Skolder's aggressive methods, yielding no additional intelligence while creating a medical liability that personnel find disturbing. His psychological damage becomes so severe that even loyal Imperial staff question the necessity of continued detention and the escalating moral costs of the entire program. The partial success leads to proposals for expanding similar techniques to other sectors. But resource constraints and obvious psychological costs create bureaucratic resistance within Imperial intelligence. The project continues operating primarily due to institutional momentum rather than strategic necessity. Imperial strategic planning acknowledges that complete elimination of Force user resistance would require decades of sustained effort and enormous resource allocation conflicting with other priorities. The regional success proves systematic anti-Jedi operations are possible, but demonstrates significant limitations when considered for galactic application. The incomplete elimination of Force-sensitive individuals maintains some early warning capabilities within the galaxy, though significantly reduced from previous levels. Imperial intelligence remains focused on conventional threats and does not develop contingency plans for unconventional vectors that might emerge from beyond known space. The regional success creates false security among Imperial leadership, who believe Force user threats can be managed through conventional methods without recognizing that Operation Insight's techniques depend on specific circumstances that may not apply to future challenges. When Din Djarin finally locates Grogu 6 years after beginning his search, he succeeds through assistance from former Imperial medical personnel who defected after witnessing Grogu's treatment firsthand. These professionals, horrified by what they observed, provide the access codes and timing necessary for a coordinated extraction operation. As Din reaches Grogu's containment unit, he finds him severely psychologically damaged, but still alive, though barely recognizable as the curious child he once protected. Through their reunion, Din learns that Grogu's intelligence has enabled significant Imperial success against Force users in targeted regions, fundamentally altering the balance of power across the Outer Rim while Jedi resistance continues elsewhere. Because while the Empire has achieved unprecedented regional success against Force user resistance through systematic psychological warfare, their focus on Outer Rim operations has allowed other threats to develop unchecked in different areas of the galaxy. The systematic elimination of Force-sensitive individuals from key sectors has created intelligence blind spots that Imperial conventional sensors cannot fill, leaving entire regions vulnerable to dangers approaching through non-technological methods Imperial science cannot detect. The Empire's greatest intelligence victory may have won them temporary control of the Outer Rim, while leaving the galaxy's core territories defenseless against ancient threats that only Force users could have sensed approaching from the vast emptiness between galaxies. What's coming will test not just Imperial power or Force user resistance, but the very foundations of life as every sentient being has come to understand it. And when that test arrives, the absence of those who might have provided warning will make the Empire's victory over Grogu seem like the hollow triumph that may have doomed every world in known space. If you've enjoyed this journey through an alternate Star Wars timeline, there are more untold stories waiting to be discovered. Join our growing community of Star Wars enthusiasts who believe in exploring these what-if moments that could have changed the galaxy far, far away. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and activate notifications to catch our next alternative Star Wars story. Each tale offers a new perspective on the characters we love and the choices that define them. Remember to share your thoughts in the comments below. What other pivotal moments in the Star Wars saga would you like to see explored differently? Your ideas might inspire our next adventure. May the Force be with you, always.